He's the former director of Moz. He has since left and he's doing his own thing now. Like I said, a man who really does need no introductions. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cyrus Shepard.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good. It is wonderful to be here. It's my first time to the Philippines, my first time to Southeast Asia in general. It's been an exciting experience. I'd like to thank Len for inviting us. He took a lot of the speakers out for dinner last night. It was an authentic, home-style Philippine food meal. It was wonderful, except Glenn wouldn't tell us what was in the food. He had his camera ready, like, take a bite of this. We want to see your reaction. But we've been having a wonderful time. I'm here to talk today, obviously, about SEO. The state of SEO, where our industry is, and the business opportunities that we have, and really how things are changing in 2018. And I have some depressing news. SEO is different. It's changing. It's getting harder all the time. As my teacher used to tell me, they don't give third grade tests once you hit the fourth grade. Our industry is getting more advanced, and every year there are more challenges and things that we have to overcome in order to succeed in this business. And in the last year or so, things have gotten particularly challenging in a number of ways. So I'm going to spend the first part of this presentation going over these things and hopefully scaring you into action. And when we think about SEOs, this is how we think about, this is generally how we think about SEOs. Yeah, this is what you want your SEO to be. Confident, professional, very knowledgeable. You would have no trouble giving your website over to one of these individuals and trusting that they're going to do a good job. The reality of that, though, and the reality for many of us in this room, this is what your SEO actually is like. Most days, this is how I feel as an SEO. I'm not confident. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm busy. There's no roadmap to higher rankings and more traffic. Most of the time, we're just making it up as we go along, and there's no guarantees. I know lots of SEOs. I know very few SEOs that I would actually call an expert, including myself. I'm not an expert in SEO. I'm just making it up as I go along. And that's the reality of what happens. LinkedIn shows 150,000 people with SEO in their job title. If you expand that to what they do as part of their job, their description, it's many more times that. 150,000 people SEO in their job title. A huge portion of that is here in the Philippines. Maybe up to 10% of the global SEO industry works out of the Philippines through outsourcing and agency work and other sorts of stuff. We're not all experts. A lot of us don't know what we're doing. And we're just stumbling our way through it. And we're dealing with these massive challenges that SEO faces us. To add to the problem, SEO is getting a little more muddled. I started SEO back in 2009. And even then, when Google had a big update, we kind of had an idea what was going on. Google may make an announcement like, we're devaluing spamming links, or we're speeding things up. SEOs would try to figure out what was happening. These sites were declining. Oh, it's hitting this particular thing. But today, when Google updates, it's mystery meat. We don't know exactly what's happening in the algorithm all the time. And Google can't tell us either. They're using machine learning. They're using user inputs, which are kind of vague. And we don't always know what's happening when Google updates. The named updates of the major updates of 2003 were Fred, which was just a name that was made up. Then unnamed major update, unnamed major update. We don't know what Google is doing anymore. It's becoming increasingly a black box where we put something in it, but we don't know exactly what's going to come out. And that's making our job harder. But there's something more fundamentally going on, shifting in SEO, that I think is very important for us to realize, and it goes to the very heart of the definition of what SEO is. Now, if you look up a definition of SEO, most websites have some variation of the same thing. Moz has one, Search Engine Land has one, Wikipedia has one, but they all kind of talk about the same thing. Search engine optimization is the practice of increasing the quality of traffic through organic search results. Now there's two parts of this definition I want to focus on. Traffic and organic search visibility. The promise of SEO is that if you improve your rankings, you will get more traffic. That's the way it's always worked. That's why we do it. We increase visibility, and that way it leads to more traffic. But we're entering into a period where this promise doesn't always hold true. We have situations now where increasingly we can increase the visibility of our website, but that doesn't mean we're going to get more traffic. That's kind of a tough pill to swallow. Because we do all this work, we do the things we're supposed to do as SEOs, we increase our visibility, our names are getting in the search results, but the reward is increasingly not something we can depend on. Now, there are many reasons for this, and I want to explain some of the reasons why we're seeing this shift in how we do our jobs as SEO and what's expected of us. First of all, of course, is SERP features that Google is introducing. Google has been slowly introducing search features over the last 10 years, beyond 10 blue links, but recently, over the last 24 months or so, we've seen an explosion of search features. I brought this search up, FA Cup. I'm not a sports fan, I don't even know what FA Cup is, but the explosion of SERP features all over this, it's very hard to find the organic results within a SERP like this. If I ranked in this, I'm not guaranteed, I might have visibility, but I'm not guaranteed an increase in traffic. If you look at this result on mobile, I counted the links on this page, and it's the same on mobile as it is on desktop. In this SERP, there are 50 links that go back to Google. So if the average searcher that's on this, they're going to stay on Google more than they are going to go to the external links. There's 40 to external websites. Now, I do a lot of work in conversion rate optimization. And I know that if I want to influence behavior, the number one thing I'm going to do is increase my choices in one direction and decrease my choices in the other. So if I'm trying to get people to stay on Google, I'm going to decrease the choices to giving people the opportunity to walk away. So ranking in this SERP may not be that great. Google has also, in the last 18 months or so, started to reduce the number of organic results in each SERP. It used to be 10 every time. Organic, desktop, mobile. Now we're seeing search. It's very easy to find SERPs that have 4, 5, 6, 7 organic results, and not the 10 that we're used to. Again, if you're doing CRO, if you want people to stay on Google longer instead of going to external websites, reduce the opportunities that they have to go to those external websites. And it's less likely that those 6 results in this situation are actually going to get the click. Featured snippets, my favorite thing to talk about. Around 12% of all search results now have featured snippets. And this is actually it's actually gone down a little bit in the last few months, but that's not necessarily good news for a reason I'll talk about in a second. And the problem with this is Google is, one of the things that we can expect, Google announced a few weeks ago that they plan on expanding featured snippets and expanding the way that they look in search results. This is going to include things like double snippets, so you'll have one snippet, and if they don't like that one, there'll be another one beneath it. Multiple snippets where you can scroll through a carousel where the answer is just provided for you, and expansion of video snippets. Now, what's the problem with this? I mean, it seems like this is great, this gives us more visibility in the SERPs, but when taken at aggregate, when you look at the statistics of thousands and thousands of featured snippets, click-through rates on those go down about 4%. Not for the featured snippet itself, but the overall SERP. So every time Google shows a featured snippet, it has a 4% better chance of keeping the visitor on Google instead of clicking through to an actual website. And as they expand this, that adds up to billions and billions and billions of searches where people aren't clicking on websites, they're staying on Google to look at the results. Closely related to featured snippets is related questions. And these are the people also ask boxes. These are actually about 3 times the volume of featured snippets, around 34% right now. And the problem is, each one of these questions has a featured snippet in it. They provide the answer in the result without people actually having to click through. So these featured snippets, we don't have the exact statistics on them, but we suspect every time Google shows a people also ask box, it reduces click-through rates to external websites by just a fraction of the amount, which adds up to millions of searches over the long run. And this could spell kind of trouble for SEO. But there's one thing even more sinister than that Google is doing. More dangerous to us that we really need to look out for. And that is, a few months ago, Google introduced longer meta descriptions. Now it seems like a great thing. We used to get 150 characters in the meta description, and now we have 300 characters. That's more visibility to us. We got the visibility. But also, they're giving that to everybody. And in effect, this means that every meta description now is more likely to contain the answer that the searcher is looking for. And we don't have statistics on this yet, but my suspicion is we'll see just a 1 or 2% decrease in clicks to external websites because people are getting their answer in these longer meta descriptions, so they have less incentive to click through. And of course, we have this problem we've had for 10 years with SEO, which is Google favoring its own search results when they're involved in a number of antitrust issues around the world with governments, and also ads, kind of hiding ads that look like organic results. Anything Google can do to keep people on Google.com instead of clicking through to those external websites is a huge motivator for their bottom line. And of course, today we have clickless searches, voice search. Amazon, Echo, Google Home, and of course, voice searches that you do for your phone. Now, it's estimated that by the year 2020, half of all searches will be voice searches. That stat sounds staggering, and it's only 2 years away. Fortunately, most of these searches are on the new devices. They're new searches that people are doing. Actual volume on desktop and your mobile devices are staying about the same. But this is a strange opportunity for us because we're getting more visibility in these searches. But of course, we aren't getting the click, we aren't getting the visit. So, this speech is called The State of SEO. Are you guys familiar with Rand Fishkin? Yeah, he's a colleague, he's a friend of ours, a good friend of mine. He usually gives these types of speeches, so he very generously let us have some statistics to show, and I'm going to be borrowing a lot from him, from some of this presentation. We want to know, despite all these dangers, what is the actual effect of this on searcher behavior? And some clickstream data shows that as of today, 40% of searches are resulting in no click. So only 6 out of 10 searches are actually going to an external website, and that's the SEO traffic that we want. And it's on mobile. It's particularly bad. 6 out of 10 searches on mobile result in no external website visit. People are searching, they're getting the answer they need, and they're moving on. This is where it gets scary. This shows total clicks overall, and this is through clickstream data, people actually in their browsers clicking. This is not data from Google or anywhere else. This is the total number of clicks combined. And over the last 12 months, if you look at where these arrows are, October of 2016 to October 2017, the total number of clicks in the world that people are actually clicking on external websites is decreasing. For the first time in the history of SEO, over the last 16 months or so, we're actually seeing SEO opportunity start to shrink. Our industry, the opportunity for clicks for external visits, is showing shrinkage. This is kind of scary. This is kind of scary. It's particularly harsh on mobile. Something happened with Google about 13 months ago. They changed the layout, most likely, and that's when we saw the huge jump from clicks up to 60% of people not clicking on their mobile device. And we should expect Google to continue to make layout changes to see this number go up and up and up. And if you look at the total volume overall, when we started 2 years ago, almost 7 out of 10 people, when they search, they click through an external website. And today that number is down to about 5.5. And this number just may keep crawling. This number is good for this is good for one company though. Google. All those results, Google just released its fourth quarter earnings. Their revenue off of the clicks that they get is up 23%. Now how many people saw a 23% increase in income this year? I'm sure a few of us have, but Google is definitely getting it. All those clicks that aren't going to external websites are staying on Google, they're staying with advertisers, and Google is finding a way to take advantage of this. All right, have I sufficiently scared you? Yes, okay. That's the bad news. The good news is this. I've been doing SEO for longer than I've been doing anything in my life. I had over 50 jobs in my life, I will never have another job again. I am dedicated this to the rest of my life. There's nothing I love more, and there is so much opportunity out there for us to claim, because the story I told you is not a new story. This has been happening since the beginning of SEO. It's going to keep happening, and our challenge is, despite these challenges, despite the challenge of increased visibility, despite of the challenges of where we're getting our clicks, our job is to move forward and find where the opportunities are for ourselves and for our clients and adapt. The people who adapt are going to take advantage of the birds in hand, and the people who aren't are not going to do very well. So today, the whole conference, we're going to be talking about opportunities, and we have some wonderful speakers after us who's going to be talking about the smart ways to take advantage so that we don't succumb to the dangers, so that we can evolve. So some good news. Search volume on up. Search volume almost takes care of those decreased clicks, because even though people are clicking less, more and more people are searching. And this number continues to grow. It's mostly being driven by mobile at this point, as it has been for the last 5 years. And it doesn't quite make up for it, but it makes it up almost as much as we possibly can. Ad blindness is really real. Despite the fact that people aren't clicking through to external websites, only about 2.6% of all clicks result in a Google ad click. Despite Google's best intention, this number has stayed consistent for years and years and years. And as much as they want this number to increase, people just aren't that enticed to actually click ads. The other thing, Google still sends more traffic than anybody, than almost any other type of marketing that you can. We talk about, there's an article in the last couple of weeks that showed that Facebook is dropping, sending traffic to publishers. That's just top publishers. Google has always blown Facebook out of the water for average websites, mom and pop websites, small businesses, things like that. Facebook is certainly dropping for social sites and news sites, but Google beats the pants out of everybody. If you take all the other sources of traffic combined, Google is still the best investment that you can make, and it's actually growing. Google is becoming a better investment for the money than almost any other channel, and it's probably smart to put your investment in that area. E-commerce, it's the second most used channel. Far above paid search, social, offline media. The only channel that e-commerce uses more than Google and search marketing is email. So if you're trying to figure out a business and where you'd like to go into, search marketing is still a super smart bet and something that continues to grow. So our challenge as SEOs is to figure this out. Figure out the problem. What happens when we get more visibility, but we don't necessarily get the increased traffic? I don't have the answers for you. This is something that we continually have to think about. Every day I go into work, I'm trying to figure this question out. I'm trying to get more traffic to my sites. I'm trying to get my success, my client's success. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I have a few opportunities that I want to share with you now. And I think one of the smart things you can do when faced with any challenge is, when you're looking to put investment, is invest in areas of SEO that other people are under-investing in. When you do this, when you get in early, it's kind of like investing in Bitcoin. If you invest in Bitcoin in 2011, you're great. Today may not be as good as opportunity to invest in Bitcoin. If you'd like to buy some, though, I will sell you some. So what about featured snippets? I talked about featured snippets, and I said how they lower click-through rate. But there's a huge opportunity here if you want to invest in them. Why? Yes, featured snippets lower click-through rates, but only for the losers. For the winners, it almost always results in an increase in traffic. For example, if we have this result, number 3, in a normal click-through rate pattern, we could expect to get about 10% of the traffic for that. But if you win the featured snippet, you get the 9% plus 7%, 16%. Everybody else drops. And number 1 drops 28 to 20. Winning the featured snippet, which only one person can do right now, is an incredible opportunity to gain more traffic. If you don't win it, you're losing. But this is an opportunity that we should be going after, even though snippets overall might hurt our competition. And when you win the featured snippets, you're setting yourself up for voice search. I haven't talked to a single SEO yet who's came up with a great strategy for taking advantage of voice search. I think it's a brand new field, but I think it would be smart for us to prepare ourselves to capture as much voice volume as we can and winning those searches to prepare us for the future when we figure out how to take advantage of those situations. And people also ask, this is another huge opportunity. Just this week, Google rolled out a feature that if you click on a result and click back, they expand people also ask. I think this is one of the biggest opportunities in SEO, optimizing for questions that we have right now, because there are so many instances in the SERPs that people aren't using right now. One of my favorite ways to rank for people also ask questions, it's using Moz. Ahrefs has a similar tool. Do your keyword research, filter your keyword research for questions that people are asking, and creating content for each one of those. And I think people also ask optimization is going to be a big buzzword term for the next couple of years. AMP. AMP sounds cliche. I used to hate AMP, but I'm going to explain in a minute why I think it's still a huge opportunity for most people. Now, Google says AMP isn't a ranking factor. They need to retire that statement because AMP is a visibility factor. It's an impression factor. It may not help you rank, but it's certainly going to gain you a lot of impressions and traffic. Regular results, apps, carousels. Barry Adams did a case study where his client showed it was a news site. Once he implemented AMP, traffic increased 27%. And you're thinking, well, Cyrus, I don't really have a news site, but that doesn't really matter at this point, and I'll explain why. Why this is an opportunity is over 80% of SERPs have no AMP results at all. And the average SERP only has 1.6 URLs that have implemented AMP. AMP is the wild, wild west of search right now. People are not investing in it like they have HTTPS or other technologies, where we're seeing over 70–80% adoption. But now let's go back. Cyrus, I don't have a news site. Why would I use AMP? What people don't realize is there are advantages to AMP, even if you're not a news site, that everybody can take advantage of. Two reasons. One, you get the little lightning bolt symbol, in the SERP, which can increase click-through rate. But two, Google will pre-render the AMP in the search results, even if you're not a news carousel, making it almost instantaneous, which means your site's going to load faster, which means you're going to get more traffic. And because 80% of sites aren't taking advantage of this, it means you're going to beat the competition if you do it. And Google's own study shows that they a 10% increase in traffic to all sites that increase AMP. It's very rare that Google will announce that a particular feature increases traffic, but by their own study, they said this, and over 60% of AMP clicks now go to non-news sites. So it sounds cliche, and I hate, if you would have told me a year ago that I've been advocating for investing in AMP, I would have slapped myself. But I think it's something that everybody needs to talk about. Other opportunities that people aren't investing in, that I constantly see people underinvesting in, is just mobile speed in general. I think mobile speed, or speed in any way, is one of the top 3 things that all SEO firms should be optimizing for, because it delivers such good results. Google announced that mobile speed is going to be a ranking factor starting sometime this year. And people are kind of poo-pooing it because, Cyrus, they said it's only going to affect 1% of queries. They said the same thing in 2010 when they announced desktop speed as a ranking factor. 1% of queries, no one's going to notice. But then 3 years later, we noticed this huge correlation between speed and rankings. Maybe it's a correlation causation thing, but as your sites get faster, and we still see this today, your rankings increase. We don't know the exact reason, we just know it works. And we should expect the same thing on mobile page speeds. I'm going to be talking about mobile page speed a little bit later in the day. The good news is the basics of SEO, no matter how complicated it has become, the basics remain the same. These are Rand Fishkin's, 8 basics of SEO, and they've stayed amazingly consistent over the years. The job of ranking a website is pretty much the same as it was 5 years ago, with one slight difference, and that is query satisfaction. Google is getting incredibly smart with machine learning, trying to match the question to the answer. And that's that black box that I was talking about. We don't quite know how it's doing it. This has been a little confusing for us because we don't know how to do this as SEOs as well as we know how to do some of the other processes. Coming up later today, in my second speech, I'm going to be talking about exactly this, hacking user satisfaction to engagement metrics, to figure some of those basics out. We have a lot of great presentations coming up. If you guys use Twitter, our colleague Ruth Burr is live tweeting today. The hashtag is Peepcon3. Peepcon3, you can follow along, and we're going to have a great time, and I'm excited about the presentations that are coming up. So thank you, everybody.
Cyrus, can you stay on stage for a while? So they're preparing the slides for the next presentation, but I think we have a few minutes remaining that we can use for question and answer. So microphones are set up in the middle of the aisle. So if anyone wants to ask you anything about this presentation, or something else more personal, yeah, don't be shy. Cyrus is like the friendliest guy in the world, so don't be shy. Anyone want to ask a question? By the way, don't be afraid to walk up to Cyrus today. If you see him anywhere near you, approach him. If you want to take the customary Filipino selfie, he's more than willing to do it with you. So don't worry about it. Anyone want to ask questions? I think people's brains are still fried too early.
We got a question.